All right, hold on. Get dip sauce. Woo! How y'all feeling out there? Mm-hmm. I know. What's up, Quan? Mm-hmm. What's good? I see y'all coming in, coming in, coming in. Yes, sir. Hit those like buttons up. What's up, Neil? Mm. Death Row Records and what they implied and all of the injunctions and all of the stuff they went through. Well, contracts. Contracts come into play, and other people normally had to bow down or bow their heads to the way the contracts were structured. Now, everybody was too busy getting high. They were too busy getting high to realize what was happening. I kid you not. What's good? Dad's been dissing Snoop for I don't know how long. Daz was an ADHD child who turned into what he is today. Love him as a beat maker though, but Daz is special. Now, when it comes to taking things to the next level or looking at hip hop in a phrase that it should be, I often say this. You know how they say, watch the company you keep? It's definitely watch the company you keep. What's up, Jamil? The reason why Death Row contracts looked the way they did was entirely different from how contracts are now, because again, there was no education on contracts, none of that back then, like it is today. There was no internet really. The internet was just becoming a thing. Now, since the internet was just becoming a thing, let's take another look at everything that went down, right? Because the internet was just becoming a thing at its time. When we start looking at everything on the table, start putting 1 and 2 together, and you come up with the number you do, why do you come up with said number? The reason that you do is because you've seen rapper after rapper get abused in contracts. There were no 360 deals back then. So, what was happening? Well, Death Row Records contracts was a little bit different. Now, what the majority of the rappers who were signed to Death Row Records, see, here's the thing, a lot of rappers wasn't signed to Death Row Records. They weren't. The Lady of Rage got signed. They put her in a place to live, but nothing was hers. So they took care of her living expenses and all of these things, the studios, but she didn't own anything. It was a good thing and a bad thing. What Death Row Records had more than anything was agreements. Like a handshake deal almost. They'll put the agreement in place and then they would sign the contract to make it legal. They would take the contract and spin it until it turned into something favorable for everybody in the group. Now, a lot of these activities was not, it wasn't smiled upon at the time, right? And a lot of these rappers didn't know they were giving away their publishing rights in the contract. They were agreeing to sign over their publishing for different things, for revenue, and this and X, Y, and Z. So when they do publishing deals, they were forfeiting their publishing before they even knew what it was. They had already signed it away. Now, a lot of these contracts, because they were agreements that were made, who's to say when you made the agreement or you basically did everything you were obligated to do in the agreement? And Interscope was the one that was really forging the real record contract and putting that deal together, where Death Row, who was in charge of its own distribution at one point. They had bought out a distributional side so that they can go ahead and distribute their own music. Because Interscope was like, look, we ain't gonna have nothing responsible for what goes on with Death Row. We want to be a separate entity. We don't want to be sued. Now, artists such as Dr. Dre and Snoop should have had admin deals back then. They didn't understand the business, but now they do. But back then they didn't have an administrative deal, so everything was about the mechanical royalties, and their mechanical royalties were gone. They weren't getting any mechanical royalties. They weren't seeing royalty checks. They weren't seeing anything, because if you were going to get a royalty check, it was going to come from Interscope. But your royalty checks wasn't coming. Death Row was just taking them and keeping them. So where did the royalty checks go? So, hey, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of it was done by poor paperwork. For even the publishing, people were having their publishing stolen by people that didn't even, they weren't even artists. They were just people that knew how to manipulate paperwork to steal rappers' publishing. on records because they didn't know what they were doing. You had songs that were sitting in catalogs of people. They were like, how did you get access to this? And meanwhile, they're making all the money and getting publishing checks off of it. It was crazy. And one time, it was no collusion or nothing. The paperwork was just filled out incorrectly, so nobody was getting paid on it. And it was for a Tupac song. Suge Knight and the rest of those guys, they filled out the paperwork wrong. Whoever did it, and the money was just sitting there, piling up. Nobody knew how to get to it. Death Row didn't sign a lot of artists. I don't even know if Danny Boy had a contract. I'm serious. That's why it's so easy for these artists to go. It's like, okay, you can go, but what you gonna do? Because they gonna pretty much shut you out of the business if you leave. So you basically stuck. The only way you make money there is them taking care of you. But when your career is done, you got nothing. They got your publishing. They getting your royalty checks. You living in stuff thinking it's yours. And you don't know. You ain't even paying for that. Everything you doing is already been paid for by your work. Decisions were made. So it's not like one person made a bad decision. No, a lot of people made bad decisions. That's what led to this. Well, your mechanical royalties is coming off of your physical copies. You know, one getting no money off of Snoop Doggy Dogg. Snoop wasn't saying anything when it came to this money. He was just making them money. And he felt like, man, I don't. Death Row put up this money for my trial. And they really didn't. Death Row didn't put up no money for the trial. He thinking they did, but they didn't do that. It's just like Bill and Tupac got. He went over there and got the money from them, from Interscope. Suge wasn't putting up any of the money. Well, this is why Death Row was worth so much money and Suge had so much, is because they cared. They were young. These guys are like 21, 22. Daz is like 20. You know, these guys are in contracts they don't even understand. And all they cared about was getting high and being famous. And they all went bad deals. Warren G had a real record deal. So he actually had money. And Wong G, his uncle, who was handling his business, was the reason he was straight. Warren G was always straight up and down, man. Nothing wrong with what he was saying. I would have never, ever been in a situation like that and had it go out in the way that everybody else did. It was very primitive. sneaky, deceptive, whatever way you want to call it. That's how I looked at it. It was not something that, if you were a real individual, you would want it to play out. You would want it to play out that way. There's plenty of people out there that you could start some stuff up with. You know what I'm saying? But it's a very few of you out there who know how this business runs. And if you know how this business runs, you automatically know what time it is. No. Rappers never really got money at death row. Like, if you needed something, Suge would just go get it for you. But they never really saw any money. All their money they was making, publishing, all of that was gone. At that time, Suge was signed to be manager to Tupac. That was Tupac's manager at the time. And that was illegal. Yeah, Tupac had to fire his longtime manager and homeboy, and he told him, Pac, do not sign this deal. And he was like, I ain't got no choice. He the only one trying to get me up out of here. But see, Tupac was still signed to Interscope. He was already in a record deal. They were just going to sit there and let him rot until Death Row got involved. And they said, all right, well, we'll put him on Death Row Records. Even though he's on Death Row Records, he's not an artist of Death Row Records. So they have an agreement with Suge. Suge is the manager. So they have an agreement deal because he already has a record contract with Interscope, who's their parent label at the time. So he says, all right, now when they sell records, Death Row got their label on there, they getting a percentage, and Suge is getting a percentage off Tupac for being a manager. And his agreement was for 3 albums. Machiavelli really being the last album, because the first one was a double CD. Gene Griffin taught him everything? Yeah, I would think so. Well, you got to understand, these are the type of things that go down in the hip-hop industry that no one talks about. Well, he had an agreement. So if you got an agreement, what's going to happen is you're going to end up probably getting screwed over in the agreement. Am I right or am I right? So what Tupac got was cash advance. He got $3 million cash advance. Now, when Machiavelli came, Tupac had just sold 5 million records. So he should at least had a $3 million budget, album budget, or more for Machiavelli. He did not. And that's what Tupac loved about, Suge loved about Pac. How fast he worked and how much he worked. He was pumping out songs like crazy. And you know what everybody else was doing? Getting high. That's why Jeff Rowe did what they did. He was like, we got to get that Tupac album out now. When everybody had to go on hold, they had to get Tupac album done quick. Yeah, you got to get Pac albums out now. Tupac's out. Everybody want to hear what he got to say. He was like, look, ain't nothing coming out right now. Hold that. So they stopped the promotion of the Dog Food album. Dog Pound album was out, and they really didn't even market that. It was all about Pac. And Daz and them sold 1 million records. Man, they often make those mistakes. That's what he'll say. Man, that's what they say all the time. They be like, man, you sold 1 million records. You got $1 million. No? Okay. We're not the same. We're not the same. There's so many different analogies that they try to put in place to confuse you. They never had these agreements for rap artists back in those days like that. They didn't care. They didn't care about rap artists like that, for real. Because there was so many of them. You understand? There was so many of them that nobody cared about how these rap deals were structured. And it was like, man, when they found out Tupac was paying for child support and they had to audit. See, when you get an administrative deal, you basically pay another company to basically audit everything that's going down. They go, well, go ahead and audit them, audit over here, audit over there. And if you keep doing that, people will eventually see, like, okay, audit them, then audit the deal so you can see exactly what's going on. But you try to audit Death Row Records, at that time, they might find you in the desert. Suge didn't want him to leave. So that's always going to be the case. Because he don't want you to go nowhere. Should be, you ain't got to leave. Do everything you need to do right here on the road. Nah, see? You ain't got to go nowhere. You could do everything you talking about. You could do it right here on the road. See? What I want to do is help you. Because, see, ain't nobody is locked up. Nah. And everybody else's contracts is. See, my artists got to worry about that. Because, see, I take care of it. That's why all my artists, they good right now. And you see all these other people, they signing all these bad contracts. My artists didn't have to worry about that. All your artists had bad contracts. The only bad part was that David Kenner had to be the attorney, the lawyer, and Suge Knight was the manager. So when he was trying to get out of his deal with Suge, to like, hey, I'm gonna go do my own albums, I'm gonna get my own label and get my thing rolling, you know. And he turned in, he's like Machiavelli, the last one, you know, the Machiavelli album, and I'm gonna set up my Euthanasia record label and all this. Like, he did not want to do Death Row East. But Pac went along with promoting that with him and promoted it and stood by it because he had his Machiavelli records coming out. So he was cool with that. He was like, all right, I got my Machiavelli records. He gave him his imprint and he was all good. So he thought. Well, when people don't see things the same way, or they don't see eye to eye, they start making up their own visions of what they think is going on. Normally, it's like 10 to 25%. You would pay the outside company to do what they do. I remember when they had the Oasis back then. So they would go to the Oasis, hang out and smoke and do what they had to do. But you can go ask Reggie about the contracts. Did he think they were fair? Did he think everybody was happy about the contracts? It's real easy to do. Bad Boy contracts were fair to a degree. Biggie didn't have a bad contract. Big actually had a decent contract. It was a standard deal. The problem that occurred, it was just that it was so much going on. that y'all just have no idea how bad it was getting with some of these record labels. Because record labels lose money a lot, and they lose more than what they really be paying out. It's just that when you got a record label, you can write things off and make things disappear. Right? This is when things got crazy. The lines got blurred, and the scales got a little bit insane. Yeah, I remember they used to brag all the time talking about oh, well, I think if we go this way, or if we all in and we doing it like this, then X, Y, and Z gonna happen. Well, Suge Knight wasn't trying to get Snoop out of there. Reggie be lying too. So forget asking Reggie. Reggie ain't gonna tell you nothing real. They weren't making. Look, Death Row Records were selling records based off of yeah, Death Row Records had a thing where they were saying they had people in there making music and stuff that weren't even under contract. Most of these dudes weren't even getting publishing. They weren't getting paid. They ain't had a publishing together, nothing. They didn't even have a publishing deal. And they were just put out there. Death Row did this a lot. Like they had this guy, Jay Flex. They brought him in. See, Suge knew I gotta keep him young, I gotta keep him new. Rappers get disgruntled. It is what it is. He ain't wanna lose Snoop. Snoop was Pac dead. Snoop album just flopped because they didn't even promote it. They put it out as the same time as Machiavelli. Machiavelli came out the week before it. And then the next week, here comes Snoop. You got Tupac and Machiavelli out. And then you got Snoop. And Snoop still sold 2 million because it's Snoop. Snoop's upside your head. Since Snoop's upside your head. Cause I'm the dog father. Yeah, I'm the dog father. Snoop Doggy dog father. I said. Yep, he's just basically taking the Gap Band and just gonna run that to the ground. But he was able to milk that and take that to new heights. Oh, I promise you that's what he did. He milked that cow all the way to the end. He's still doing it. Snoop right now has an administrative deal. I told you, man, none of these rappers be having those deals like that in place. Back then, you couldn't do that. Now it's so much like knowledge out here to learn about deals and contracts. Like Young Thug has one, Kendrick Lamar has one, Nicki Minaj, I think, had one. I know Meg Thee Stallion signed an administrative deal. But this is what I'm talking about. Not everybody had it. Yeah, well, if you got an administrative company that's really good, then yeah. If you don't, then, it is what it is. Well, when you got edibles or you got incredible people, incredible edibles, there's a lot of these people out here that's just not making a lot of sense nowadays. It's foul away days nowadays. Everybody saw you and they coming to court too. I thought you knew. Can't even steal on nobody. Somebody gonna sue. You Can't See Me was a diss to Stretch, Biggie, everybody. But You Can't See Me is Dog Pound song. Then you got, it's a lot of songs that just went, it was so much wasted material, dog. Like Sam Snead, he had his own thing going on when he had Recognized. Death Row was the ones to really revolutionize because they had a deal with the movie companies. All the black independent movies come out, Interscope would give it to them, like Above the Rim. The soundtrack would go to Death Row. They'd get to do the whole soundtrack. They would give it to Suge. Suge started getting all the movie soundtracks. So that was big money because the Hollywood, the studios is paying for everything. So that was huge. People forget that soundtrack money was real. Them publishing checks was real coming from them. They was, hey, I was on the soundtrack, baby. So Death Row started putting together movies. They was like, we're going to put out our own movies and distribute them and then making soundtracks. So soundtracks keep, man, them checks was looking real good. So they start saying, hey, man, we need to do that. So if you start thinking about movie soundtracks and start thinking about how things are going and how they gonna proceed and how they should move going forward, then it would make more sense to move in that kind of fashion. One where things align a lot. Yeah. So everybody was doing that back then. They was crazy, like mad crazy. So everybody took the indie route. They was like, look, we gonna jump in the indie route. We gonna come out and do what we gotta do. We don't want to hear nothing they got to say. Let's just stick with what we doing. Go the whole indie route. And that's cool because right now Most people use streaming services and YouTube, you got TikTok. They use all these methods to boost their money up. So now, as an indie artist, this is how you blow. See, this is how academics is doing. And they wanted me to do that, and I wasn't going to do that shit. I said, I ain't finna go over there and go grab 4 to 5 other people and grabbing them and trying to get them engaged in this situation. And you looking like, for what? I'm going to get all the record companies paying me nice. Those checks is stopped, bro. Record companies ain't paying you like that no more because it's stupid to pay you. That's just stealing money. And plus, I don't want to deal with no syrupy ass rappers that I don't know, when I don't listen to this shit. Why am I gonna be dealing and telling them, oh man, your new song, sip that syrup till you drop, Yeah, man, that was outstanding. Yeah, I can't sit there and lie to them people like that. Syrup till I drop, yeah, syrup till I drop, syrup till I drop, syrup till I drop. No, I can't. I ain't gonna be into that. Academics can do that. That's his wheelhouse. I can't fake it. I can't do that. So that's why it don't work well for me. It don't mesh well for me. So when people talking about I'm do stuff for clicks and views, I'll be like, dog, if I say it, I meant it. Bite my tongue for no one. Call me evil, unbelievable. Shit, what are you talking about? I'll be like, dude, I have a movie channel for movie reviews because I like movies. I like boxing. I like basketball. I like football. I like hip hop. These are the things I do. I talk about the things I like. Things I know about. So I'm not finna go in there and start talking about some doggone in the badminton tournament today. Susie, yeah, I'm not gonna talk about stuff like that. You got other people to do that. That's their lane. Let them do it. Let them have it. Stay lane. Don't care about it. But I'm not some of these people that's gonna fake it. I don't know how to do all that fake it stuff. That's them. Well, they lock these people in deals with terms you don't understand. And that it's going to be hard for you to get out of a death row contract unless they decide to deal you to somebody. And they'll say, well, look, let's negotiate a release from him. We'll at least get a percentage off his last album or what have you, right? Man, where I'm at, dog, it's like the white people are more ghetto than the black. And that's scary. I kid you not. They trapped out over here. And they be white chicks and white people. That's scary. They be trapped out their mind. Right, so I'm sitting there trying to get everything figured out. Like, where is everybody gonna go with this? So looking at those contracts for those artists that they had very few that was signed to contracts. And then to leave death row was very easy for them because the majority of them weren't signed to contracts that they could stay. They had agreements. So basically they could just up and leave. Why do you think Daz and them left that easy? Daz and Corrupt left. Right? See, Daz could leave, but they had their names and their imprint stuck to him. He was signed under that nigga Daz. That was his name when he was on death row. So when he left, he was Daz. He was that nigga Daz, Daz Dillinger. Then he became just Daz. Right? So he had all of this music that he recorded with Pac, that he claimed, and it got stolen by death row, by his own wife. Allegedly, she did it. He took the reels over there to him, and they gave him fake reels and brought them back to them, whatever. So Why do you think it was easy for Corrupt to leave and Corrupt to come back? Corrupt left, went with Snoop and them, went the solo route. Then he went over there and then should have told him, you're going to be vice president of Death Row Records. And they was like, why would you go back over there? Why would you go back over there, Corrupt? Corrupt went right back over there, went back to the family. Should didn't care, was back to business. Let's get this thing going. We're going to get this cracking. We're going to put out some projects. Went left again. Why do you think he could bounce back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? The agreements. This way, you're not going to be liable, and you got everything that you can get off of him. And whatever record label he signed to, that's cool. We'll just do an agreement where I get my cut, my percentage. The Death Row label going to go on that album, and that's that. We get the lawyers to draw it up, and everything is everything. So, yeah, that's just how it goes, bro. Just how it goes. Yeah, I know, it's wild. It's mad wild. So, yeah. So it's crazy. It's nice and crazy. At the same time, nice and crazy. What do I think about what? Nah, I don't trip on stuff like that. Nah, I just came to I'm gonna chill and eat. Right, I ain't eating nothing all day. So, I got my hair cut. You see that? Before it got too dark. Told you it get dark out here quick. It's not being smart, it's being two-faced. Right. What you want to do nowadays, you're an artist, especially if you're an established artist. Eminem has an admin deal, which means that you give up some of your publishing. Like he did his on 50 Cent, the Massacre album, and Eminem Curtain Calls. He used that and got a UMG deal, get a administrative deal with them. So therefore, Kendrick did his in 2020. But if Eminem did his in 2017, I think, he did an administrative deal. And in that administrative deal, you basically giving them percentages off some of your work that you own. You still keep your masters, you still keep your publishing. If you already got it, you keep all of your publishing. Now that that's in place, you go, okay, well, my publishing is in place now. So now if we got all that accomplished, we good, right? So what you do, now that you have everything in place and you got everything covered and you good for the day, you got no problems. What you do now is take it to the next level. Oh, this chick is too drunk to even be in here. So now that you got all your publishing in place, you got everything licensed in the way that you would like it, fashionably done. Now you move to a whole different degree, right? You move to a different stature. You get an outside company or whoever you got to do your audits for you, right? And that in this case was UMG. They're gonna go in there and you pay them your 10 to 25%, whatever thing they're charging you. And they will go in and do the audits for you to get all the money that's owed for whatever you need. And you'll find out, okay, they're going to audit everything for me. They're going to get everything done. Okay, I got another $600,000 right here that's supposed to go to me that I knew nothing about. They did it for me already. And if you're a major artist who's established, like even Young Thug, he signed an administrative deal. And most guys are doing this. They protect their publishing, they protect their masters, and say, hey, you can get a percentage off these, but I still own them. But you can get your portion and your percentage off of these deals. And what we recover. Whatever you recover, you get your percentage off that. This is what Daz was trying to say when he was just talking all high He was trying to say this lawyer. I ran into this lawyer, man, and he told me this deal, man. He went in there and audited these dudes, man. And he's talking about an admin deal. And man, he was like, don't pay me. Just wait till we'll see what we get back, and then I'll get my percentage off that. He just did an admin deal. That's all. So now he's like, yeah, now I'm getting paid off that, I'm getting paid off this, and I'm getting paid off that. Well, I'm getting my points now. But do you hear those songs in regular rotation? No. Do you hear anything off the Dog Pound album in rotation ever? No. So it's a double-edged sword. See, Eminem will have songs in rotation. They'll play him on the radio station. Hell, they'll play him on the country station. Eminem will be played all throughout this universe. He'd be on the rock station, the pop station, everything. Y'all got is Hot 97 and WGCI. That's if you're black. So that's radio gone. Now you talk about the internet and what they doing. Right? So now you talking about the radio and what they doing on the radio. Okay, well, let's look at the radio. Well, radio's done now. What? The radio's done? Yeah. So now what you got? Well, here's what we got now. Since we don't got radio for you, we got the internet radio. Oh, Eminem got that too. Got his own station. Shady 45. Shady 45. Now he got internet radio. So if he does a licensing deal, he's just gonna keep continuously make more money. So they're gonna keep him making money because he cannot go broke. They cannot let him be the standard. Not him. Anybody else can. But they gonna keep throwing and rolling deals over to him. So he gonna continuously make money. So hopefully this was an instructional video, informative video that you guys liked and everything. But now it's getting a little chilly out here. I almost can see my breath now blow out. It didn't drop to like 60 some degrees. I need to hit me a nice big juicy porterhouse steak, and I've earned that today. So let me go on and do that. I'ma holler at you later. Deuces. Shouts out to Kwame Brown, Bus Life. Happy birthday, Christian. I know your birthday just passed. And I think Jalen Young, his birthday is today or something like that. Happy birthday to y'all. Don't forget to go to the Patreon. I updated that. And we out.